Do you guys remember watching Naruto and this happens? Or do you remember watching Revolutionary Girl Utena and this happens?
Or is anyone going to talk about literally any clip with the Hitachi twins?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I was introduced to a lot of PDA in anime, and it tended to be towards people of the same sex. Anime, in a lot of ways, introduced me to the LGBT community. So in today's video, I want to talk about how anime introduced me to the LGBT community. So anime has taught me a lot about the world around me when I was growing up, and the LGBT community was definitely no exception. I remember watching certain scenes in anime that were definitely not heteronormative. Even when I saw those scenes, I didn't necessarily think it was strange or weird. Even when I was a young person, I was just like, oh, this just seems normal to me. When you're younger, you typically tend to be a lot more open-minded anyway. So being that I was pretty young at the time, I was a lot more open-minded to different communities other than my own. But you know, I sometimes wonder if it weren't for the introduction of this media at such a young age, would I still be as open to the LGBT community as I am today? It's something that I tend to think about. Regardless, I think other media probably would have also introduced me to that community as well, and I don't think I would have rejected it in other forms of media. So, you know, ultimately, who really knows? So I want to get into my family dynamic first. What do they think about the LGBT community? I am from the Caribbean. My mother and father are both from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I myself was born in the great nation of Barbados.
Westbury Road, Barbados, they could tell you that's the truth.
Ironic as it is, I was born in the Caribbean and I was born in Barbados. And typically in countries like that, being gay or being of an alternative community such as that really isn't looked upon as a good thing. A lot of people also got killed because they were gay people. And they also coined the term Batsi boy or Batsi man for a gay person. The funny thing is though, that we do actually have people in our family who are within the gay community. I do actually have one uncle who is a gay person, and personally I remember growing up with one of my cousins who was pretty obviously gay.
Even as of recently, I remember having a discussion with family members about the nuances of the LGBT community. Especially within Caribbean mindsets, it is very common for the people to think that some sort of trauma that happened in the youth of the person who is in the LGBT community is why the person has the preferences that they do. They rarely seem to believe that the preferences that the person has chosen are of their own accord. Something must have triggered the transition into this other lifestyle that they have chosen.
But I remember being young with my cousins, and from the time he was a little kid all the way up to recently, he was the same way he is now. He has not changed at all, and I'm pretty sure he's not putting on some kind of act, and I doubt that he was traumatized in any sort of way for him to start to act that way. So I'm pretty sure that's not a learned behavior. It's pretty much just how they are. In regards to my early experiences with the gay community within the media that I consumed a lot of media with these types of topics involved in it, usually very unknowingly. So I remember one time in particular, I was with my father, and my father was in his office and he was watching the movie Brokeback Mountain. At the time when I was younger, I didn't really understand the plot of that movie. I don't think I've ever really watched Brokeback Mountain, to be quite frank with you, but at the time, my father was watching it. There was a scene that was going on the screen, and it was the two men, and they were like in a tent. Now that I think about it, they were definitely a couple, but at the time when I was younger, I didn't really understand what was going on, but my father clearly did. It was an intimate scene that was going on between the two main characters. And at the time too, I was standing there and I had the controller, the TV controller in my hand. My father was yelling at me to give him the controller, and I was just so enamored by what I was seeing that I didn't pay attention to my father telling me more and more aggressively to give him the remote. I'm just staring at it, and all of a sudden my father just gets up, snatches the remote out of my hand, and then skips the scene. I remember being so confused by that. I was just like, I don't see the problem here, but my father clearly did, and he definitely skipped through that part of the movie. I didn't really start understanding the levels of intimacy between people until a lot later, but I'll discuss that later on in the video. Now let's talk about the gay community in combination with anime, which is my favorite part. It's gonna be my favorite part of this video, to be honest, because oh my gosh, so many anime that I like adore from my childhood. They still have such a good place in my heart. Ew, not my weird self showing. I just love these anime that I'm about to talk about. I'm just gonna go down a list of some of my favorite LGBTQ anime, whether it be accidental or on purpose. And we're just gonna discuss it a little bit and talk about how it affected me and what types of relationships were formed in these anime. I mean, if you're an anime head, you probably likely already seen all these anime I'm about to talk about, but anyways, let's get into it. First off, we're gonna talk about Naruto. So in the beginning of this movie, girl, this ain't a movie. In the beginning of this video, I talked about Naruto and that one scene between Naruto and Sasuke, and it was an accidental gay scene. I remember watching it, and I think I was with my brother or something like that, and we were just like, yo, what is going on here? Because like that one character kind of nudges Naruto into Sasuke, and they end up kissing each other. Can we talk about how anime always does that? You know how somebody falls and then all of a sudden like they're grabbing somebody's ass cheeks or their boobies or something? Like, how does that work? Anime, where are the physics? Yeah, that always happens in anime, and that's what happened in Naruto. And I remember that being one of the standout scenes for me as a child, not knowing that it was something that would kind of introduce me to the gay community, not directly but a little bit indirectly. At the time too, I was a kid, and I definitely didn't typically see two boys kissing each other. If anything, I definitely would probably see a boy and a girl kissing each other, or a man and a woman, or something like that. But in this scene, it was two boys, and it was definitely accidental, but it definitely was, you know, that situation. There's probably other scenes that I have already seen in other media, but honestly, I cannot remember. Naruto was the first one for me, okay? That's how it's gonna be. So then we get into, like, we're gonna get like this train rolling, you know, and just gonna head right on over to Revolutionary Girl Utena, okay? Because that anime, a lesbian girl's dream. Everything was so beautiful and flowery, and I wasn't even a little gay girl, but I freaking loved that anime. But who didn't? Really? Who? Are you gonna tell me you didn't love Utena?
Revolutionary Girl Utena was one of my favorite pieces of media growing up, and I really loved shoujo media at the time, and Utena had everything that I loved in one story. The main character of the story is Utena. She's sort of a masculine presenting girl wearing attire more akin to a prince rather than a princess. This was due to the fact that when Utena was a young girl, she came across a traveling prince and was so inspired by him that she was like, you know what? Nah, I'm the prince now. I'm the prince. So an important theme that I noticed in Utena is that of gender roles and the subversion of them. Sexual desire is kind of fluid in the show, and most of the characters in the show at least hint towards having interest in both same-sex and opposite-sex attractions.
So, that's the type you usually fall for, huh?
Oh, wow! Are you jealous? Don't worry, you'll always be my true love, Utena. You're way cooler than any of those guys.
Revolutionary Girl Utena definitely introduced me to my first lesbian couple, and I was not mad at it, okay? I was here for the girls, and they were both pretty, and there was a dark-skinned girl. Can we talk about that pretty dark-skinned girl? Can we?
Utena is also consistently the savior in this show, Instead of being portrayed as this kind of frail female character waiting to be rescued by some prince or whatever, she kind of is the prince, who also goes on to save her very own princess later on in the show. Like, I mean, what could be cooler than that? This anime revealed to me what it means to be a woman, and that there really isn't any kind of set way to show up in the world as a woman. Utena showcased charm that could be really both assigned to the male and the female gender alike, and honestly, it really works for her. Although I am still a heterosexual woman myself, I still saw the value of Utena, and I really enjoyed her as a character. She was one of the first characters in anime to show me a different side of the female experience.
We're gonna go on to Cardcaptor Sakura.
Cardcaptor Sakura is a story about a shoujo heroine named Sakura. She accidentally frees a set of magical cards loose into the world, but then has to retrieve them using the magical powers that she gains. What I find interesting about this story, along with the magical girl elements that are clearly evident within the story, is the relationships that are built as the story continues to progress.
My sweetest, dearest Tomoya, her and her one-sided love towards Sakura. She loved Sakura even though her love was basically unrequited, and she made all these outfits for her.
You look so cute there, Sakura. You see? Hey, watch this. I love the way your skirt flares out when you fly. Oh, yeah, she does look pretty cute there.
Sakura's best friend Tomoya expresses a genuine love for Sakura. She knows that Sakura already has a love for Ouran, but still loves her from afar and shows unwavering support for her in everything that she does.
私は大好きな方が私と両思いになるより幸せなことがあるならずっとそのまま幸せでいてほしいですわ。それって好きな人に好きになってもらわなくてもいいってこと？もちろん好きになっていただければ嬉しいですわ。でも私には大好きな人が幸せでいてくださることが一番の幸せなんです。ともよちゃんに好きになってもらえた人はきっと幸せだね。そうでしょうか。うん、絶対。ありがとうございます。
Can we stand Tomoya? Because like, we love a queen.
Tomoya does all manner of things for Sakura, from recording her adventures to creating endless amounts of costumes for her, all for pretty much nothing in return. It's a pretty symbiotic relationship.
Not only did Tomoya and Sakura kind of have this kind of unspoken kind of relationship, even though Sakura was, I'm pretty sure she did not know that Tomoya had feelings for her. There was also like these relationships between the older characters, like Sakura's older brother, as well as Yuki, which was like the angel boy character.
ユキトさんにも一番好きな人がいるから分かったんですか？
そうだね。
お兄ちゃんですか？
そうだよ。僕はトウヤがいなかったら、もうここにはいなかっただろう。
I also really like this scene where Sakura is pretty much telling Yukito that if her brother does anything to him, that she'll pretty much beat his ass. Like, we know that she's not exclusively saying that, but that's what she's saying, okay? She'll beat his ass if she has to.
I will beat you the fuck up. No cap.
And Lee also had this kind of enamorment with Yuki. There would be like a lot of blushing whenever Lee would ever encounter Yuki. He would also oftentimes give him gifts and like run off blushing anytime he did it. And it was just like the cutest thing. I don't know, man. It was just like so sweet and earnest. It introduced the LGBT community to me in just like the sweetest and cutest way ever. It was just all about the love that people had for each other. I love that. Like, I just, And then in my teenagedom, we got the wonderful Ouran High School Host Club.
Ouran High School Host Club is about a girl named Haruhi that is granted access to a prestigious school due to her academic achievement. She enters into the host club accidentally and encounters the beautiful boys of the host club. Due to her accidentally breaking an expensive vase upon entering the club, Haruhi is now indebted to them and joins the host club in order to one day pay back her debt. Host Club is intended to be a parody of the shoujo genre, not a direct representation of it. In fact, Haruhi herself was intended to be a boy at first, but a quick insert from the editor, and our main character Haruhi was switched from being a male to a female character. Hattori wanted to express the fact that Haruhi doesn't really need to dress up as a boy. The clothing that she picks out to wear is just what this character feels like wearing. This is just what Haruhi likes to wear.
Even when she's attending the school, she presents very much as a masculine or more on the masculine side and isn't very feminine presenting. Haruhi didn't really side with either gender. She was just existing, and I was cool with it. People in the club also they loved her anyway.
Bisco expressed that she wasn't hung up on gender parameters or gender orientation. She felt every person should be proud of being unique while remaining true to themselves. Hattori stressed that Ouran was a story about family and friendship.
Sometimes she would flip-flop back and forth between being feminine presenting and male presenting at times. You know, there would be whole episodes where she would like dress up in dresses, or Tamaki would try and force Haruhi to become feminine presenting, even though Haruhi didn't really like doing that kind of stuff. And this, oh my god, this anime is just like a haven of just representation for people of the LGBT, non-binary, all of those things. Back then, I wasn't caring about like non-binary because for one, I didn't even know what non-binary was. Like, I'm pretty sure non-binary is kind of like a recent occurrence.
I found it to be very interesting that they had a club that was very opposite of the host club in the all-girls academy of Lobelia. The girls of the Lobelia Academy hosted the Zuka Club that catered to girls as well. The main leader of the club, Benibara, sort of gave me a Utena vibe, having this sort of princely air about her. She came to Haruhi as a sort of savior type, wanting to whisk her away from the tumultuous hands of the Ouran High School host club. In the anime, it's quite obvious that the girls of Lobelia definitely do not vibe well with the male counterparts of the show, and they do everything to disparage them and show them how much better women are to men. One last noteworthy thing to mention is Haruhi and her relationship with her father. When Haruhi's father is first introduced, he is presented to the audience as a femme-presenting person. It is presented in the show that Haruhi's father is a trans woman. Haruhi's father and her openness to gender fluidity could also be why Haruhi doesn't quite see it as a big deal to be presenting as either gender.
At the time, like when I was younger, I didn't see those relationships with these characters to be odd, even though Kaoru and Hikaru were a little bit incestuous. That was uncomfortable, but at the time I was just like, yeah, I'm here for this. Yeah, that was weird. That was really weird. But I don't know. I just really loved that anime, and even looking back at it now, I appreciate it so much more for the things that it did for that kind of representation. Even though I'm not exactly within that community, it gave me so much more understanding of it. A lot of representation just all around in that anime, and I feel like there's just always so much media like that coming out of Japan, and I felt like I encountered a lot of that way before I saw it in the media in the United States, because in the United States, whenever things would come over from Japan and would be in its original state, they would often cut out parts that seemed to be too out of the social norms at the time. I feel like Japan was very much more progressive in those kind of ways, which was pretty interesting. It helped shape me a lot, and it just made me more open to things like that. I remember also when I attended university, my art university, I met for the first time in my life, I met a trans person, and I was very confused at first. I couldn't tell if this person was a boy or a girl. They didn't exactly look like either. So just out of curiosity, me and a few friends went up to them and we asked them. They were like, hey, are you... I don't know if that's actually normal protocol or if that's okay to do for people. Maybe it was wrong for me to have gone and done that, but that's what I knew to do at that time. So that's how I went about it. Maybe doing more research today, I would probably try to approach someone like that a bit better, but that's all I knew at the time. When they explained themselves and they were like, oh, I'm trans, nothing ever volatile crossed my mind. I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool, you know, just, and that was that. And then we became friends and we sat together in art class. And that was it. All in all, what I'm basically trying to say with talking about all of these anime that I just showcased or talked about with you guys is that they showed me a different way to love. Love isn't just between a man and woman or a boy and a girl. It can be many different forms of love. It can be friendship love. It can be unrequited love. It can be love between two men, two boys, two girls. And it just broadened my perspective of what love could be and love in its purest form. And I'm just always going to hold that very dear to me, and I love that anime was able to do that for me. So I want to get into the point where I became a teenager. That was a very weird turning point in my life, especially being the type of person that I was. When I was a teenager, I wasn't into the community like I had always witnessed as a child, but I was definitely interested in it, if that makes sense. Like it's very hard to describe my relation to the community, even though I wasn't in the community, if that makes sense. I remember one instance in particular. I used to go to art class when I was like a junior in high school, and I used to draw all manner of things whenever I was in my art class. I remember one day in particular, I was doodling these two boys. I was just drawing them and not thinking about it. To me, it just seemed right. It just seemed ordinary to me that these two boys would be showing affection to each other, intimate or otherwise. It's not like I was drawing them doing like nasty or crude stuff, nothing like that. But I definitely did show them shirtless, and they were hugging each other and very close to each other, so there's that. I showed them in kind of an intimate way, like definitely a way of what lovers would be doing with each other. And I remember there was this girl who used to sit next to me in my art class, and she was like this kind of, I don't know how to explain her. Like, I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that, but she was not of the same mindset as me. Let's just keep it at that. She sees me drawing or doodling these boys in this intimate way, and she rips the paper from up under me, and then she raises it up to the class, and she's like, she is drawing gay boys. Look, she's just drawing gay boys, to the whole class. And me, embarrassed, tries to take the paper away from her, because obviously I know that it's bad now because of the reaction of this person. Me by myself, I didn't think it was wrong for these two boys to be interacting in that way and for me to be drawing them in that way. But because of her reaction and then her trying to then shame me for what I was doing, made me feel a lot of shame. Something that felt so pure and genuine to me was being mocked and looked down upon by other people. And I never really showed that part of myself anymore. That's something that I started to hide. The point of this video, I guess, what I'm trying to say to wrap this all up with a little bow on the top, is that anime really changed my perspective on a lot of things when it came to the LGBT community. And I wouldn't even say really changed, because it's not like my mind was set in stone about anything concerning the LGBT community, but they definitely enlightened me to what true love could look like. Just anime showed me that no matter what kind of person that you are worthy of love. And I think that is the purest message that I could have gathered from being introduced to these things in anime at a young age. I'm grateful that I'm open to these things. Not that I'm exactly within the community, because I am very heteronormative still. I still like men, but I have a lot of, I guess, admiration, or I don't even know what to call it. If you guys have also had a similar experience with anime, either showing you LGBT communities in a positive light, or if you took it negatively too for some reason, who knows how you interpreted these things. I would love to read your guys' comments about how these things shaped you, because they also helped to shape me in such a monumental way, and I would love to hear your experiences as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and if you watched to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Okay, so this is kind of a new format that I'm playing with. I've never really made a video like this before, so I want you guys to kind of bear with me through this process. I also started using Adobe Premiere for the first time. Before, I was just editing all my videos on my phone. So this was a long process. It took me a while to finally get all the pieces of this video together. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I don't know, I just hope you like it. Yeah, anyway. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.